The day I came home from kindergarten, bawling my little eyes out because I'd gotten my feelings hurt, I just knew my mama would take care of it. I'd seen it before. I knew she'd go up to that little country school, burst through the doors like Yosemite Sam, shooting off a mouthful of words you'd never wanted to hear twice. And this scene would probably go down in some kind of county records. Though she had the grit and attitude of Yosemite Sam, she looked nothing like him with her tall, slim figure, her permed hair, heavy blush, and violet eyeshadow of the 80s. She was a mythological goddess of the backwoods, and when someone mistreated one of her kids, her judgment was swift and her righteousness prevailed. Like the time my older sister took her turn on the neighborhood tire swing. When she came home, one of her pigtails was much lower than the other. As my mama brushed out my sister's thick brunette hair, gobs of hair fell out. My sister explained that a boy named Brian had swung her around on that tire swing by her pigtail. Now, my mama was expecting a baby at this time, so naturally she took the quickest route to Brian's house, over a big horse pasture, stomping through weeds that grew as high as her popped belly button. Without knocking, she walked right in the front door, huffing and puffing with her face full of red-hot fury and high blood pressure, handed that ball of brunette hair to Brian's mom and said, "Trixie, this is the hair your son pulled from my daughter's head. I may be 8 months pregnant, but if your son ever touches my daughter again, I will rip you bald-headed." That right there is a country girl you do not want to mess with. Like all great defenders, she'd been shaped by adversity. She had overcome so many things in her own childhood, horrific traumas I can't bear to describe. Her strength was legendary, the kind you see in soldiers, the Marines, or the X-Men. So I always knew she'd come through for me, because she already had, the time I almost died. I was almost 2 years old when I'd made my way into the kitchen and discovered the chocolate donuts stashed behind a crock pot full of simmering stew. In an instant, I pulled the electric cord, and down came the crock pot, its contents spilled over my head and face, down my left arm and my back. My barefoot mama grabbed me by my wrist and ankle and ran to the car. She caught only green lights as she sped to the emergency room where I received immediate skin graft surgery and enough pints of blood to replace all of my own. This was in 1977, when second and third degree burns to 50% of my body meant I probably wouldn't make it through the night. Miraculously, we all survived that accident. I had more skin graft surgery and spent almost 2 months in the burn center. Lucky for me, the physical therapy consisted of playtime, wherein my mama and her unmatched stamina played games with me to stretch my skin. For hours, she twirled me around the living room until I was exhausted. For months, she applied the moisturizer and sunscreen to keep the scar protected. For years, she scratched my back to relieve the itch that never goes away. And then it was time to send me to school. The phrase from kindergarten that hurt the most was the old lady. When I told my mama, I thought she'd handle things the way she always had. But I was wrong. Like a fairy godmother, she got down on her knees, wiped away my tears, and spoke in a soft voice. She explained, "Those kids have no idea what you went through to get those scars. They have no idea how strong you are and how you had to grow up fast on the inside. They've never been through something like that, so they're still little on the inside. Sometimes they act like babies. You don't want to get mad at a baby, do you?" I shook my head no, and I smiled, because I clearly saw how superior I was. She knew there was a difference between the Bryans who pulled hair just to be mean, and those kindergarten kids who had described my differences in the best language they could find. She could handle a villain or his mother when necessary, but she could never change the way I looked. As mystical as her powers were, she would never be in all the places where kids made comments about my scars. So she gave me her best weapon in her arsenal against people who cause hurt, like the people who'd hurt her when she was little. She sent me out into the world armed with the liberating power of forgiveness. That day I came home from kindergarten, I learned there were many faces to motherhood. And since I've had my own children, I've learned there are many ways of being a mother. My kids will never have the thrill of seeing their mother morph into Yosemite Sam, but they will know they are the descendants of a warrior, a gentle teacher, a mother whose lesson of forgiveness is her legacy.